I was so surprised, shocked, and humbled when I heard that I'd won this award. And it actually took me like a week to really process it. And I talked to my mom and I said, you know, I've won this award. I don't know how I could have won this award. I'm not sure that they haven't made a mistake. You know, and I was like waiting for another email to come to say, actually, sorry, sent this to the wrong person. But it was so wonderful because the actual category, humanity, was something I had never really put myself in, although I understand it. Because I had this meandering career and I do science and I do some work with creative communities and I do some work with tech communities and I do, but really what binds it all together? What holds it? What is the propelling force? And I thought that is exactly it. And I didn't know how much I needed somebody to say that, to say that we see that all these things in all these different places, really what they are is about adding your little bit to serve and contribute towards helping humanity move from here to here. It's really, really important for women at all times, but I think even more so in this age and time, to hear from other women a validation and an understanding of what the peer group values, sees and honors, because I think there is a way of seeing that the community of women, be they scientists, be they politicians, whatever, that see in a particular way, which is very holistic. So personally for me, wings means so much more at this time in my life, because I found, you know, what we miss now in modern society are those rites of transitions, those passages of transition from an age to an age, from girlhood to maturity to your second stage of life. At every stage, you feel it in yourself. The way you're seeing the world, the way you're working shifts. And you don't know if other people are journeying with you. You don't know if things are changing, you're seeing it differently. And you need some sort of affirmation or something that takes you to say, okay, you were here and you moved here and it's okay because this is what life is about. It's about this journey and we move from here to here. And for me personally, entering into what I'm calling my second stage of life, this community, this Wings community, who they are, who they embody, the kinds of work they've done, the courage, the curiosity, the bare bold-facedness of the women, just allows me to say, I have more faith in the next stage of my journey because there's a whole community of women, look at them, that have done this, and they recognize some part of me in them. And so I can transition easily to the next stage of my life. I was telling my daughter this yesterday, and it was about the path that I took to become a scientist. So when I was in school, I was very much an all-rounder. But in those days in the UK, they had a system where you couldn't just apply to Oxford and Cambridge for your A-levels. Schools would nominate certain people, and then they tell you what subjects you could apply to Oxford and Cambridge to do. So I had wanted to do chemistry, physics, biology for my A-levels. And it was a big thing to be chosen to sit the Oxbridge exam. And I was one of the girls chosen to sit the Oxbridge exam, but I was chosen to do geography, history, and English because they thought, oh, it's a safer bet. You know, sciences are very hard for women, and you know, then you'll be competing with all these other men. Just, we know you're good at sciences, but really, let's just stick to, you know, arts and humanities. And so I was like, wow, this is a great honor. So I went and told my mum. And my mum said, I know it's Oxford and Cambridge, but really, I think you should study sciences. And if they don't put you in for that, that's fine. It's more important that you get the education that you need for the life that you know, will be bigger. Because she'd done arts and science. She said it's wonderful. She became a teacher and she's very happy. She said, but I think that if I had studied science, I would have had many more opportunities in life. I would have had many more career options and many more paths that I could follow. And so I think you just have to decline this Oxbridge nomination and just do 3 sciences. So I had to go back to school and tell the headmistress, who was very annoyed, that I'm sorry, you know, I can't do it, you know. My mom says I have to do 3 sciences. So I studied chemistry, physics, but what she said to me really hurt, and for many years colored how I saw myself. She says, well, you can do that, but you don't have a scientific brain, let me tell you. You have an artist brain. You are never going to get anywhere because you don't have a scientific brain. So I came home and I told my mom. My mom says, whatever kind of brain you have, you will use it to study whatever you need to study. It's not about one or the other. It's about applying the tool, which is the brain, to the task. Don't even worry about it. But there were many times when it's difficult for women in sciences where it's predominantly male and it's very competitive. You lose confidence, and I had very little confidence actually doing my PhD and all of that because it's just so precarious. And at many times I thought, God, maybe they were right. Maybe they saw something and I really am not this person. I shouldn't have done this. But I did it. I got my PhD by the age of 25 and I said, wow, without a scientific brain, this is what I can do. Mrs. Rayburn, who was my English teacher, funnily enough, but she said, listen, read everything, find out everything. Don't say this is too small or this is too low to know or this is too highbrow. She says, everything you're curious about, go and find out about it. Just pick up a book, ask a question, go there. And so she had this idea about learning and knowledge. And that was what she instilled in us in the class, was just about whatever it is, pick it up and find out. And then if there's any other thing you don't know, take the next step. And that's all there is in life. And I just loved her spirit. And I think she was and still is the biggest influence in my life. Because now I'm working in areas that I didn't get trained for. I'm doing humanities, and people get PhDs in urbanization and in conservation and natural resource management, all of those things. And I've grown into those roles, and I'm leading teams of people who have PhDs in that, and my PhD is in something else. Because it is about just boldly saying, what don't I know? And how can I learn it? What I would say to my younger self and to any young woman entering into science is that try and answer the question that bothers you the most, because that's where your energy will come from to finish the journey, to complete the task. It's that itch. So if you have an itch and people say, well, you know, you may be curious about this, but this is more important, whatever, you will never have as much passion and you will never have the energy, because it really does take a lot of energy to finish that path of inquiry, to get from beginning to end. So answer the questions that bother you the most. When I'm in Nairobi, which is where I've lived for the last 3-4 years, it's the call of nature. When I'm in Nairobi, where I've lived for the last few years, the thing that gets me out of bed is the call of nature. And that's the beauty of living in Africa, is the drama of nature, the noise of the cocks crowing, the birds singing, the sun rises, it's like a curtain draws and a curtain shuts, and so nature interferes or is part of, we see it much more graphically than we see like in London and other countries, because we've urbanized so much that it doesn't interfere with our everyday life and just doesn't give us color and meaning. So that's what gets me up in the morning. There's the call of the world having woken up and going about its business. So by the time I open my eyes, the birds are chirping, they're doing their thing, and I need to just enter into the race. The problem of waste is so deep an issue, and it cuts across every aspect of our lives now, that I think we really need to reframe and think about how we consume, what we consume, and as we are consuming, where it's going to go. It has an impact. And I think for the first time now as this generation, we are more fully conscious that everything we take in goes somewhere else. It doesn't just disappear into thin air. It is ending up somewhere, and it's generally doing some damage. So what is it that we have brought into our lives, that we have paid to bring into our lives? And how is it that we live? And is it what's the word? Is there an embarrassment of riches that I don't even know how to put it? We tend to choose 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Really, we want one. Whether it's food, whether it's how we live, out of everything, because we are able to have many more choices, and it's a wonderful thing to have many choices, But every choice has a responsibility and it has a consequence and it has an impact in terms of where it goes next. Nothing disappears into thin air. So I think we have to take it deeper, not just in terms of recycling or whatever. We have to begin to change our philosophy in terms of how we live, what our impact is on our little community and the greater world, because there is an impact. The message that I have been giving myself and trying to live by, and I'm not saying that I've reached there, but it is what's my screensaver and on my desktop, is a message from actually a thinker called Thomas Merton. And he says, our business is just to love others and not to inquire whether or not they are worthy. And that is a hard task, but it is by the loving that we render ourselves and others worthy. So we just get on with it.